Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Great Krino Show. Welcome, everyone, to the Great Krino Show, where we learn from experts and people with unique experiences so we can apply those lessons to our lives. And in today's episode, we have a very special guest, former prisoner of war Rob Sweet. Rob, who goes by the call sign Sweetness, was flying his A-10 Warthog during the first Gulf War in 1991 when he was shot down. Rob's flight lead, Steve Phillis, was tragically shot down and killed while trying to defend Rob. While in captivity, Rob endured horrendous treatment and didn't know if he would live or die each day. His story is truly incredible, and it is my honor to have him here with me today. So here he is, Rob Sweet. Well, Sweetness, thanks for coming on. This is great. It's truly an honor.
No, really, it's my pleasure. Thanks for, I forget who it was that vouched for you, but fellow hog brother, man, I'll help a fellow hog brother out anytime.
Yeah, I think it was Spam and Soup.
Oh, it was Soup. Yeah.
Yeah,
Soup.
they were both commanders of mine back in Korea and DM, so I have a lot of respect for those guys. So shout out to them.
I remember those guys when they were young. They're, of course, both younger than me.
Yeah,
and I'm still flying the hog, and they're not.
Well, actually, that's funny. That's funny. We could almost just start there. So you started in the hog in 1990. Am I right? Because you were a lieutenant.
Right. January of 90 was my first flight at B course.
Yeah.
Incidentally, it was in the 333rd, the Lancers, which isn't there anymore. They moved that squadron patch to Seymour Johnson. Okay. And but anyway, I went through the 333rd, and if I would have been a month early, I could have said I've flown the hog in 5 different decades. But
holy cow! Does anybody else have that record? I think that might be a record.
No, Karl Marx at Whiteman. He's the Methuselah of the A-10.
Okay.
You ever heard of him? Kuda. Yeah. He's the guy. Yeah. You should do a podcast with him.
Yeah, definitely. Already. How many?
He's got like 7. I think he's got over 7,000 hours in the A-10. Just
Jesus.
Crazy. I flew with him a couple of years ago, and he's one of these guys that maxes out his ASD every time. I'm old, man, so when my sortie's done, it's time to go home and lay on my back's hurting or whatever. And I flew with him, and he's like, I'm like, he's an instructor just in the squadron up there up at Whiteman, the 303rd. He's a great guy.
Okay, so you got to give him shit then. He probably only has like 6,900 hours, 6,800 hours.
Yeah, that's right.
If he's padding it like that. But
that's right, fat pencil.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, he's the Methuselah in the A-10. And but I started out in 1990. I got my first A-10 was my first choice. They always ask, what was your first choice out of pilot training, right? So of course you have to say A-10, but that was actually my first choice because I really wanted to go. And I did find the A-10 mission pretty cool and something I thought I would like to do, but the real answer was I wanted to get stationed at Myrtle Beach. Because I used to go there in high school as a kid, and I thought, man, this would be, I used to watch the A-10s fly over the beach and stuff, and I just thought it'd be a great place to be stationed. So I really wanted to go there, and luckily I did well enough that pilot training that's what I got.
So when you went into pilot training, what did you want? Did you want a fighter? Or
yes,
did you take whatever you want?
Yep, I did, and I wanted to do. I filled out my your dream sheet or whatever back then. It's A-10 was first, and OA-10. I found the air-to-ground role more appealing than the air-to-air role, so I had like OA-37 on there, OV-10, A-37, RF-4, and F-16. I found the centrifuge quite distressing at 9G, so I really didn't want to. A 9G fighter wasn't in my. Let's put it this way: if I had flown a 9G fighter, I wouldn't be flying it right now at 54 years old.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Hell, even being flying the A-10 for this long is an impressive thing. But yeah, so the air to ground mission, was there anything specific that really appealed? Can you kind of narrow it down? Was it this?
I like flying low to the ground in the trees and the weeds. Looking around. I don't know why. I guess it's personality flaw or something, but.
Yeah.
I just thought that was, but of course, it was really location. To be quite honest, I wanted to go to Myrtle Beach, so
yeah, because
that's what I got, and I got to go there, and sadly, the Air Force had to close that base down because morale was too high there. we can't have that today's in the Air Force. So they closed it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because that was a big reason why I wanted to go to DM. It was the one base that was tolerable and in a community that I could hang out in for a few years. I was terrified to death of doing F-16 would have been cool, but going to Kunsan, then going to Cannon, I'm like, no, I would have enjoyed the initial takeoff in the F-16, but I think after a couple of years of being in those spots, I don't know if I would have.
Yeah, the Kunsan was not. Or the Cancun, I guess.
The Cancun, yeah.
I had a friend of mine. It was I did a couple assignments in AT-38s, and there was a buddy of mine who's now since passed on, sadly, from cancer. But he was a FAPE at Laughlin. I met him as I said, at Randolph. He was in the reserves there, and I asked him, so how come you got out? He was a F-16 guy, and he goes, well, I was a FAPE at Laughlin, Viper at Kunsan, Viper at Cannon, and after that, I had enough of the Air Force, man. I was like, you didn't get one good assignment, location-wise, anyway.
Yeah, that sucks. The Air Force doesn't make it easy on us. They want to see like who really wants to fly.
That's right. That's right.
Well, cool. So your first assignment was there, and then can you kind of walk us through your initial announcement of the Gulf War? So we're looking at actually Desert Storm was before that. It was in the summer of 1990. Did you guys know that you were going at that point?
Yeah. So, I showed up at Myrtle Beach in May of 90, beginning of May, maybe early April, or maybe the end of April. Back then, B course was only 4 months long. It was TDY. There was no A-10 stuff. We didn't have any simulators. We had some cockpit trainers. But it was fairly quick, and you didn't get your mission check there. You got it at your base. Get your eye check there, but that was it. So I showed up, and in a month and a half, went through MQT, verified, and beginning of July, I think I took a week of vacation, and then I flew once, and then at once CT, and then by the very end of, I think it was the beginning of August. They'd already gotten the prepare to deploy order. They were throwing tanks on the airplanes. And so I did one tank check. And then back then we flew with both tanks, not just one. And then we got I was in the 353rd TAC Fighter Squadron, the Black Panthers, which is now at Red Flag, Alaska, I think is the squadron up there. Anyway, so we were what they called the Alpha Squadron. This is back in TAC. So there's three 24 PA squadrons in Myrtle Beach, and two of them get to go and one doesn't. One sits home and feeds airframes or pilots or whatever they need to the other two squadrons. So I was in the Alpha Squadron, the first squadron. So we left first. And I was a ground spare for the last cell of 6 because there was 4 cells of 6 aircraft. So I never thought I was – in fact, I was told I wasn't going about a week before that because I was the newest guy in the squadron and they're overmanned and all that stuff. So we're not going to take you. You guys are going to sit home and then maybe come down later or whatever, which I wasn't happy with. As a young lieutenant, you don't want to be left behind. So luckily – anyway, but I got told I was going to be the ground spare for the last cell, which I gave no chance of being used. So therefore, I didn't pack appropriately or make any personal – as I was a single guy, so I didn't make any
no preparation
plans for my mail or my car or any of that. So sure enough, I ended up sparing forward and end up flying. And that was a horrifying sortie. That was right up there with one of the worst horrifying sorties of my life because we took off at 5 in the afternoon in August, so 1700. We flew the whole night and landed at 9 o'clock in the morning. In Morón, Spain, Eastern time. So it was a 14.3 hour sortie.
Holy cow. This is from Myrtle Beach straight to Spain?
Yes.
14 hours?
No autopilot. We didn't have autopilot back then.
Oh, my God.
We didn't even have the strip lighting on the tail and the wingtip. So night fingertip for 8-9 hours.
Oh my God.
Well, I don't think it was that long because it was summertime and we were going east, so maybe it was like 7 hours or something. But we flew in a couple of thunderstorms, lost wingman, nightmare, bomb bursts. Terrible. Anyway.
Did you guys have go pills at least?
Yes, we did. And I didn't take them till sun up. We survived the horrible night. But then when the sun came up, man, it was just like, I don't know if all the adrenaline left or whatever, but I had to start popping because I was done.
Yeah.
Anyway, we landed there, and we thought maybe we'd get some time off there. But we got basically one day off, and then we blasted again to fly to Saudi Arabia, and that was another 11-hour sortie. So I got 25 hours in 3 days, which I had about 100 coming out of B course.
Holy cow! So just 2 legs, Myrtle Beach to Spain, and then Spain to Saudi.
Yep, and in Spain, they put live AIM-9s on the jets because we were afraid that Gaddafi was going to intercept us over the Med.
That's true, because that was only like 2 or 3 years earlier, right? That
from
Libya went down.
Canyon and all that stuff, yeah.
Wow.
So we landed in Saudi Arabia there at King Fahd, west of Dhahran, and this is, I have to look at my logbook, but I forget the exact day, but August 12th or something. And we had about a half a tank of gas from the last air refuel in. I was in the last cell, and we got told that, hey, there's a brigade of the 82nd, maybe even only a battalion plus. I think it was a brigade south of Kuwait that we think Saddam's going to come across the border tomorrow to take the Saudi oil fields. By now, he's occupied Kuwait. We don't have any way to put bombs on the jet. We don't have any way to gas the jet. We're going to take off tomorrow. Our mission is to support the 82nd guys and try and slow them up.
Okay.
Get a good night's sleep. Anyway, so we would have been gun only, and hopefully there would have been a tanker. Otherwise, it would have been a quick story. But
so this is. Let me back you up real quick. So this is after you landed in King Fahd. They said
that night they briefed us out. Yes.
Oh, that night. So you still had. You can't fight. You had the tanks were removed, right?
Oh yeah, they took the tanks off. Sure.
Okay, and you were gun only.
Yep, and about a half of internal, maybe 6,000 to 7,000 pounds, depending on the jet when we were fueled or whatever.
Oh, and they said, okay,
we're all gonna launch tomorrow and slow them up. That's right.
Did you feel like you had enough support from your government during all that? Like, well, how did you feel? I feel
yeah, absolutely. That was old Reagan era military, man.
Yeah.
I was told many times, pilot training, lift, now IFF, B course in the squadron. It was standard that you would get told whatever you need to get the mission done, you'll get. You don't hear that anymore in today's world. It's all about saving money and bankrupts and everything else.
Okay, so you felt like you had.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Chow hall was, when they set up a little chow hall. We were on MREs for a month, but then when they set up the chow hall, whatever times they needed, we got. That was all good. It was so rushed, we didn't have any way to gas the planes or put bombs on them because the plane with the age equipment hadn't showed up yet, I guess. And
so you guys were just rushed onto this base, and what kind of infrastructure was there when you first got there?
So it was half finished airport,
okay.
International Airport. The runways were done, but the terminal was only like a third of the way done. And the tower was done enough that we could operate out of there. And it was nice, 2 big, nice runways. Or was it 4? I don't know, 4 or 2 on each side. Anyway, so that was real nice. It was somewhat austere, but that's kind of the A-10 mission anyway.
Yeah.
So we were ready to rock and roll. Luckily, Saddam didn't come across the border, and then we ended up sitting there flying Desert Shield until January.
And so, what was the initial feeling in the squadron? Did you feel like you were on a war footing the whole time, or did you feel like that initially, and then it kind of calmed down?
War footing. We all carried sidearms. Incidentally, back in those days, not true anymore. You could bring your own sidearm as an officer.
Oh, okay.
You could say, no, I'm not going to. We were issued 38 revolvers. How good? What's that going to do?
Yeah. So that's what my dad had as a cop. My dad had a 38 revolver.
Yeah,
Was it
so we were carrying them around because we thought maybe there'd be special ops attacks or whatever. So I didn't bring my own because I didn't have any. But my several of my good friends had their own. They brought their own. Now they had to sign a waiver if they lost it or whatever that they wouldn't hold the Air Force to pay for it. You can't do that. Imagine going up to the wing commander. Hey, I want to take my own weapon to get lost.
Yeah.
It goes back to the patent with the Pearl, the ivory revolvers.
Yeah.
You know, those weren't issued. Those were his own personal sidearms, and he was allowed to take them. It's one of those military traditions that we've lost in today's military.
Yeah. I didn't know that. That would be nice to bring that one back.
Well, I think so.
Yeah. So the first missions there, you're pretty much just patrolling the Kuwait-Iraqi border.
That's
or
correct.
The Saudi-Iraqi border, just waiting.
Plus, we basically threw out our tactics book and decided to do medium altitude. Back then, because the jets were green, it was all about Europe, folded gap, low altitude, in the weeds. Of course, that doesn't work in the desert. So we tried to get the jets painted then to gray, and some lieutenant colonel somewhere said no. That guy may cost some people their lives, quite frankly. But because a gray airplane is harder to see against a light blue sky by a long shot than a green airplane.
Yeah. Exactly.
We were going to paint them ourselves. Get us some.
Oh.
The Hog isn't exactly, aerodynamically picky aircraft, so we were just going to go buy some gray paint and paint them gray ourselves. But Big Air Force said no, so.
What other things were the guys thinking that they weren't prepared for, either not necessarily through a fault of their own, but what were the initial things like, hey guys, this is pretty new. I mean, you're in there, this thing happened in the summer.
Right. So medium altitude, I mean, when we would do 30 dive bombs back home, you felt like you were in the stratosphere then. Yeah. Like Adams, you never did. That's crazy talk. What are you doing up there above 10,000 feet?
Yeah, we ended up doing harbs for a while.
Yeah, so that was all new. We had to relearn all that. We got to shoot a Maverick for those of us that had never shot one before, on a range setup. So this is 91, about zero, almost not quite zero. A few people, but most people had never been in combat before. The few exceptions were, I think, our DO had been a helicopter guy in Nam, and our wing commander and our vice, and I think our wing DO. That was it. That was the only people who had combat time. Vietnam had ended just 18, 19 years before that.
Yeah, it was a while.
Many of those guys left, so nobody had any combat time. And you can read. You can read about AAA and SAM launches and all that, but that's nowhere near like experiencing it. So,
well, that's what's interesting is today everybody's been in combat.
Right.
And I mean, did you feel like it was kind of the blind leading the blind at first? Because you're a brand new lieutenant and you've got these 04s, 05s that have no more experience than you do. I mean, they've got more time in the airplane.
Yeah, no, I didn't think that. I was just, dumb lieutenant winger, man. I'm just trying to be in position, be on the radios, don't screw up.
Yeah. I guess if you don't know what you're missing, you just default to your training. And
that's right. I mean, because it was bad. The predictions were horrible, man. We're supposed to lose 200 airplanes the first night.
Yeah.
Over 100,000 casualties on the ground. And
what were the odds given for the A-10? Did they work that out? Like hey, like in this squadron, we have 40 pilots.
No, they didn't break it down to that much. But they, initially they kept us very close to the border, and then we started doing really well, and they started moving us further and further inland until we finally went too far, basically.
Yeah. What were the initial missions? So now we're into kind of fall. Did you guys have?
Again, that was just a Desert Shield.
Yeah.
Learning how to fly medium altitude in the desert, plus doing some show force stuff, flying near the border. So occasionally we were worried about Iraqi special ops helicopters flying south, maybe doing some insertions and stuff. So we would, interestingly enough, the Syrians had a brigade there, or a battalion, maybe even a division. So we would do some training with them because they had all the Soviet era assets that nobody else had. So, the SA-6s and stuff like that. But that's what that was all about. That was what Desert Shield was. So we were supposed to rotate out on Thanksgiving. We show up in August.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to rotate because who knows when the war was going to start or even if it would start. So the big plan was to rotate out at Thanksgiving, bring some other squadrons in. Because, remember, back then, we had 6 squadrons of A-10s just in the UK.
Yeah, it was a much bigger force.
We had 6 squadrons between just Alex which is Old England Air Force Base in Myrtle Beach. We didn't have any A-10 operational squadrons at DM. We had 3 FTU squadrons, but we did have a TAS at DM, and they actually deployed. And then there was 1 TAS in Alaska, plus all the Guard and Reserve. There ended up being 1 reserve squadron in Desert Storm. That was the New Orleans guys.
Okay. How many total squadrons were in there in Desert Shield? And then
so there was 2 squadrons from Myrtle Beach, 2 squadrons from Alex. The Flying Tiger showed up a month after us. There was the reserve squadron from New Orleans. There was 1 squadron from UK. So there was 2 squadrons at Bentwaters, 2 at Alconbury, 2 at Woodbridge. I can't remember which. I think the 1 squadron was from Alconbury. So 1 squadron from there. 1, 2, 3, 4. The TAS from DM. And that was it. So it ended up being, I counted a couple times. I think it's 144 A-10, something like that.
Wow. All in country at that point?
Right.
144. Wow. So was the idea then you would do your 3-month and just overlap and just do Desert Shield until the word came down that we were
then we would swap out with our Charlie Squadron or whatever that. But
okay. So you're on kind of like that 3-month rotation that they went through.
Yeah, but then they got told we're not rotating out. Too bad.
Okay, and when was there a point where it's like, okay, this is actually going to go hot here? Like, so in November they said, okay, you're not going home.
Right, you're staying there. You guys are trained for the desert, and then another 2 months of diplomacy, and and I really respected George Bush Sr. He was I think a nice guy, a concerned guy. So he gave it every shot, and then when Saddam, I think he sent him a letter or something. Saddam didn't even read it. That was pretty much it. So, they gave him the ultimatum: get out by this date, or it's fights on. And of course, Saddam was a dumbass and didn't listen. So
yeah,
fights on. And that was, I think, January 17th was the first day. Yeah, so we showed up at King Fahd on 18 August.
Okay. Were you the first squadron that showed up?
Yes.
Okay, so you were there the whole time.
So I was mission ready on 13 July. That's when I did my MR check. My first sortie at Myrtle Beach was on 4 June. So I showed up in May. Yeah, 12 April was my last. 12 April of 90 was my last flight in the B course.
So April B course, May finished your MR, May or June somewhere. June.
No, July.
Okay. Do your tank check, and then mid-August you're on a 14-hour mission from Myrtle Beach to Spain.
Yeah. And then 17 January, was the first day of combat. Yep.
Wow. So what was the combat pairing? Was it 2 ships, 4 ships?
So we did combat pairs big time back then. So I was paired as the youngest guy. I was paired with one of the more experienced guys. My new flight commander, who had just been the weapons officer, so he was the patch. But he was back then. The flight commanders were senior. I guess they're still supposed to be senior to the weapons officer. So when you were done a successful weapons officer tour in the squadron, normally you became a flight commander. So Steve Phillis, Stiff was his call sign, was my flight commander. But because he was the more experienced guy in the squadron, A-10 wise, he was line 1 on day 1. So I was line 2. And it was a 4-ship, actually. So we had 3 and 4. And our first day of the war, early morning, sun's not up yet. We're supposed to go 2-hop way out west by Jordan, hit a target, come back, and then fly home. So 4 sorties, 3 of them are just driving, but that was we did that the second day as well. So that was the first 2 days. And basically we were hitting radar sites that had been already kind of hit at night, but we were cleaning up, knocking down the antennas and Mickey Mouse ear receivers, that kind of thing, trying to poke out their early defense warning, which we did. So was the G model Maverick. You're familiar with that? It just showed up, brand new weapon on the ramp in January. Right off the drawing board, really.
Yeah.
And we got to shoot those on day 1 because of the targets we were going after. But most of the A-10 missions in that early part were Triton, the guys on the border, Kuwait and Kuwait, Iraq, and Saudi. Or a few guys were sent out scud hunting, looking for the scud launchers out in the deep desert.
Okay, so what was the threat situation like?
The MiGs were flying the first week, maybe the first 5 days. So the day one, we're blasting in there, and we got F-15C escort, and they're fighting way up north of us, and I even saw a couple air-to-air launches that I called out, but I didn't see any fireball or anything. But AWACS said our picture was clear, so we kept pressing. And so there was the air-to-air threat to worry about. And then there was the air-to-ground threat. The first target we hit was AAA, mostly. I didn't see any SAM launches on that first site. But you could see the muzzle flashes. And I really didn't see any air bursts that first day either. Just when you rolled in, you could see the muzzles flashing on your hat. And so we shot a couple Mavericks, dropped some bombs, and then we left.
Were you flying mostly during the day or at night?
So they actually we're back then, since we had a lot of airplanes, we didn't do 24-hour ops in the squadron. So we actually had a night squadron. Our sister squadron was the night squadron. They didn't fly in the daytime. They just flew at night.
Okay.
Which we all thought were awful because, this is before NVGs and any of that stuff. But, they had almost nobody get significantly damaged. Nobody got significantly damaged, a couple minor dings, and they didn't lose anybody.
Not even through spatial disorientation, which that would be surprising.
So, of course, we lost not a lot, but some guys in the daytime. So a little bit safer at night. In fact, our sister squadron, from Myrtle Beach, the Fighting Falcons, 355th, their commander had been a POW in Vietnam, and we all thought he was a little off. He turned out to be a great guy.
Yeah.
It's funny because I thought, man, that guy must be messed up in the head. Haven't been a POW, and then that's what happened to me later on. That's probably what they're saying about me now.
What was he? Can we just sidebar real quick?
His name was Rick McDowell. He was a great guy. Ended up being a great guy, and I think he's living a happy retirement in Myrtle Beach. I think still.
So this is interesting. So what did you think about him before you knew that he was a good guy? So you knew he was a POW.
Well, he volunteered his squadron to be the night squadron right out of the chute, which we all thought was crazy, but turned out to be a smart idea because he knew it would be safer at night than the daytime.
Yeah,
I believe.
So what did you think about him? So you said he was a good guy. He turned out to be a good guy, but you thought he was a little bit crazy, and you thought.
Well, you know how it is. I didn't know him at all.
Oh, okay. So
we were in the other squadron, and look at that squadron's got some POW running it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Did he ever give you any advice prior to the deployment? No,
it wasn't until after we talked.
Oh,
and he had been a kind of a late guy. I think he got shot down in 72 or 71, something like that. So he had been a little bit later. And the guys have been there for years. Not to say that still doesn't stink, but which was kind of my own experience. I was shot down kind of late in the war and low ranking. But if you're going to be in captivity, that's what you want. You want to be a low ranking guy, and you want to be towards the end of the war. You don't want to be the first guy and some kind of high ranking dude. Yeah.
So let's jump into that then. So how many missions did you do prior to the big mission where you got shot down?
30.
30. So you had done quite a bit, and I read somewhere you were kind of feeling like a little complacent, maybe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, somewhat. Now, so you survive being shot at and all this, so you're feeling like the Iraqis don't have, maybe a little confident. Now we were a little more cautious about staying in the same area. We didn't hang out in the target area very long. A couple passes, time to leave, because we figured out that they were budgeting their shots at us, so they would wait till there was a really good high PK shot, and then they would shoot. So we did do that, but you survive your 10 first combat missions, you're supposed to be good, right? Isn't that what the whole purpose of Red Flag?
Yeah, that's what it was. If you made it past the first 10, you were good to go.
So that wasn't the case for me and Sif, but anyway, so I was on the 30th mission, 15th of February. In fact, I was the high guy, I think, for the squadron. At least I thought I was, sortie count wise, because Sif, my combat pair, didn't fly one day because he had to do wing duties or something, and so I flew with an attached guy. But I was upset. I was a little upset because we were getting sent out west the next day, way out west, just hit CSAR alert, and I knew my sortie count was going to go down probably. So I was a little bummed out about the prospects of having some of my fellow LPA brothers pass me up on the sortie count, because that's all important stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We got to keep score somehow.
You got bragging rights at the bar, right?
What kind of mission was it? It was a 2-ship with SIF?
Yeah, 2-ship,
Okay.
late in the day, one sortie, no double turn or anything. We hit a tanker. We'd go in, we're going to go in, hit our pre-vol tank, hit our targets, and then drive all the way home and land. No, not going to the FOL or any of that other stuff. A lot of times you'd hit a tanker, you'd drop some attacks and targets, you'd come back to the FOL, which is close to the border, and get gas, get some bombs, and go fly another sortie. But we weren't doing that day. So very late in the day, almost, we would have probably landed at night if we would have made it back. But we initially were fragged to hit a kill box, that long box on the map,
right,
on the Kuwaiti Iraqi northern border. So that's how far we've kind of whittled our way up, 90 miles into Bad Guy Land. On the way up there, we get our tasking from ABCCC. It used to be a C-130, did that, not anymore. But they retasked us to go even further north and work with an F-16 pointer FAC. So an F-16 guy FAC.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we went to the tanker, we press on up there, and we check in with a guy. And you can tell you can't even check in hardly because the strike frequency is hot with SAM launches and guys jinking. And our guidance kind of up to that point was, because the ground war hadn't started yet, right, was, hey, if the target area is too hot, leave.
Yeah.
Don't hang out. We'll get it at night. We'll get them tomorrow. It's not time to be hanging it out, getting your butt shot off, especially because we had lost a guy by this point. The guy from the Vanguards had been shot down. And a guy from the TAS had been shot up and then crashed on landing, trying to land in manual version.
Oh, I remember that one. That was the single engine man rev, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then flying with emergency trim and all that. Not good. We needed to punch out.
Yeah, and then the first guy, did he get captured or was that just?
So yeah, he was captured. Yes.
Okay.
Although his wingman did not see him eject and watched him his plane go all the way in. So he thought he died, didn't get out. So that's what he told everybody. And so we had a memorial service and everything for the dude.
Oh my God.
So the lesson from that is when a guy punches out, it's not a big giant event. It's a tiny little flicker maybe. So if you're a mile away watching, you might not even, you blink, you might miss it. So
okay, yeah, that's a good lesson. Yeah, because I would.
Anyway, so he ended up being the first guy, but I didn't know that at the time. I thought he was dead, as did everybody else. So when I was subsequently captured, I thought I was the first A-10 guy they had. So
yeah,
I was making up some stuff.
Yeah. Wow. So the actual event then. So you had been in the air for a couple hours at this point, and
we had
work.
We didn't go in there with the pointer FAC. It was too hot, so we went back to our frag tasking.
Okay.
We were just in Iraq on the big highway there that goes northeast, southwest, and we saw a mover, and we followed him into a compound. So we dropped some bombs on the compound, then we left. We actually dropped some time delay stuff on it, CBU 71. So, like the first third goes off a waterway and then time delay. Anyway, so we dropped that old Vietnam era crap. We left because we'd been hanging out too long. We went over to another area. We found some tanks, fairly pristine. Now, a month into the war by now, there's craters everywhere. They're dropping bombs day and night on these guys. And but this target area was pristine. There was no craters. In fact, we thought maybe it was a dummy targets because the Iraqis were doing a lot of that. But 15,000 feet, you can't tell that. So we went in, and SIF tried to shoot a Maverick, but it was very late in the day. Couldn't get a good lock, so he came off. We had B models. He cleared me in. I rolled in, same from about 60 degrees different access, and same thing. Couldn't get a lock. We were going to leave at that point. We were almost bingo anyway. And I do a quick belly check, though, when I'm done, come off my Maverick, and I see a SAM coming up at me. And we'd been shot at a couple more than a few times up at this point. But this one was coming right at me. No line of sight in the canopy. You know, I could see the red thing, and my flare program was going. Didn't seem like it was doing anything. So I jammed on the flare program a lot more, you know, and then pulled across the top of it, and it missed. And of course, now you know, up until this point, if anybody ever shoots at you in combat over there in this war, that became the target.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to shoot me. Now you've highlighted your position. We're going to teach you a lesson. So SIP rolls in and strafes where the SAM came from. No secondaries. So he clears me and just as I'm rolling in, if I'm rolling in from like the northeast, I mean, I'm pulling on the stick to go right, and the plane's backing up, and then I got hit from behind. He called it out just as it hit me.
This is as you're rolling in?
Yeah, and it kind of it rolled me out.
Okay, was it AAA, or you said?
No, it was a SAM.
A SAM. So as you're rolling in on a pass, you got hit by the SAM. Okay.
And then SIF called it out just as it hit me. I said, I know it hit. He says, SAM launch, right, whatever. And I said, yeah, I know it hit me. I got hit about 13,000 feet. You know, now I'm looking at the right side. First thing I do is look outside, and my aileron's gone. My outboard flap's gone. The actuators are canted up on fire.
Real quick, do you think it was a man pad?
No, it was a 13.
Oh, it was a 13. Okay.
I know that because they took me to the gunner when I got on the ramp.
Oh. You saw this guy.
He had to go claim his kill or whatever.
Oh, man, that's an uncomfortable meeting.
Yeah, that's a little uncomfortable feeling there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I punch out at 6,000 because the plane immediately rolls off out of control. Mm-hmm. I can't do anything with it. I think the control rod, some of the cables have been sheared or something because the right engine was crapped out. I finally went man reversion at one point because I didn't seem like the controls were doing anything. And then, you know, I got my muscles all ready to go because man reversion, right? You know, it was real heavy, and it was like, it was nothing. Mm-hmm. The stick was just like spinning around. I was like, well, I'm out of ideas. And then I just saw the ground coming up, little ground rush, if you can call it that, but 6,000 feet, I punched out, Bo. That was it.
Yeah.
And then,
what was it like? So as you're making that decision, were you thinking anything other than just like, I just got to survive? Like, were you, there
was a lot of talk up at that point about some of the guys were, I ain't punching out, I'm riding it in. I don't want to be captured. And, you know, Intel was quite doom and gloomy at that point. You know, they're going to boil you in oil and cut your ears off. And,
but
I didn't know. But when you see that ground coming at you real quick, it's kind of instinctive.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, it's very easy to talk about packing it in, but I think when you're facing death immediately, we're all going to do what it takes to survive.
I think so. Yeah. So anyway, I punched out. I was pretty far north of the target area we'd been hitting, and right below me was open terrain. It was very late in the day. I was hoping I could land there and bury myself in the sand and make it to the night and then maybe get picked up or something. But
so how long? So I
didn't have my jump weights at the time. I went to airborne after that. So I failed to calculate the 40 knots of wind that were blowing me to the south, which is right where the targets are. So I ended up going exactly where I didn't want to go.
Okay. So were you, as you're floating down, did you see anybody coming after you?
I saw my plane hit the ground. I saw my classified smart pack fluttering down below me. As I got lower, I could see that it was a real tank, not a T-72. Still didn't really see any people so I thought maybe they were all hunkered down. Then I was get maybe about pattern altitude. Just tons of machine guns, and they open up big time, heavy caliber stuff. Boom, 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 boom.
They're shooting at you as you're floating.
That's what I thought at the time, but I don't think they were. In hindsight, I think they were shooting at my flight lead.
Okay.
Anyway, because first of all, I was like, how could you miss? You know, but anyway, as I'm coming down, I realized I'm going to land right next to the tank and about 50 really pissed off guys. So I tried to do the foot thing, which was a mistake, foot face, and I didn't even have time to roll over before they were on top of me. So
You mean you tried to? What was it? I'm sorry. What did you try to do?
I didn't have my jump weighting, so I tried to stand up. I didn't want to do a PLF.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I went foot face into the dirt.
Yeah.
Tore my Achilles tendon pretty bad, and then
Man.
they want me that quick.
So you're floating down. You could kind of see them coming after you then. So you knew it was going to be a short.
I was looking on the horizon. We get 100 feet or so. You're supposed to put your eyes on the horizon. Get ready for your parachute landing fall. That's when I realized, hey, there's 50 guys there. There's about 30 guys this way and 20 this way and a T-72 at my 9 o'clock. I mean, like right there.
Yeah.
Boom.
Man.
I thought I was a dead man.
Wow.
Well, so that started my captivity, but my flight lead was trying to set up the CSAR, calling in some assets, and I think he was probably flying low to ascertain my status. But he ended up getting shot himself, and then he never got out. He died.
Oh, wow.
In fact, they're looking to I didn't know any of this at the time. I found this out much later. But in fact, they're looking to upgrade his decoration to the Medal of Honor. We'll see how well that goes. But there's some pretty good support for it. Obviously, I support it too. But
yeah. How long after did you happen to see him get shot down, or was that you did not?
I told him I was punching out. That was the last thing I told him.
Okay.
He was talking to some other assets that they have on the AWACS transcripts. But interestingly enough, back then AWACS didn't monitor FM; they only monitored UHF.
Yeah,
they didn't monitor VHF. Fox Mike back then they didn't listen in on that. So
yeah, they're not going to monitor that. So the initial the initial capture. So you're on the ground, parachute. I imagine.
They're not even time to roll over, and
they're already on you,
kicking the living crap out of me and beat me up, and rifle butt to the head and everything else.
Wow! And how many guys was that? I mean, you're probably surrounded at that point.
Oh yeah, I don't even know. I'm just trying to keep my head. I'm just holding my head like this, trying to keep it from splitting open. Yeah.
And how long did that initial capture last before you were thrown into a truck or a tank?
Finally, pretty soon some officers came over, and by the way, they took everything I had off me. Wallet, watch. I don't even know how I got off. I was like, oh, my watch ain't here.
Yeah, you're just surrounded at this point. They're just stripping things off of you.
Yeah. Some officers finally came over, stood me up, and started discussing my fate, I assume, at the time, and then they brought a car up.
Did they speak English to you?
No, not there. They did later.
Okay.
A Isuzu Trooper. They came up in an Isuzu Trooper, and with the windows are all mud all over the windows, keep the glint down so they wouldn't be easily seen from the air, I guess.
Okay, and you had said...
And they were deciding my fate, so I thought they were going to shoot me because I remember from my training that, a lot of times if you're low ranking, you're not worth keeping,
Yeah.
Lieutenant ain't worth nothing.
Yeah, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you have
intel, I thought they were going to keep me right there, or that's what they were discussing, whether to keep me or whether I'm whether I'm a big enough fish to keep or whatever. But
did you?
So the truck was sitting there with the doors open, and I just went and got in the truck on my own initiative. They weren't very happy about that, but I wasn't getting out. I went, I got in the back seat of the SUV.
Yeah. Were they not happy because...
the other side? I went in this side, and there was a guy on the other side with a rifle blade. He was hitting me with the rifle blade for me to get out, and I was like, "Go ahead and hit me all you want. I'm not getting out." So they all piled in the car and drove me off.
Were they unhappy because that was like the higher ranking officer's car, or you just?
I don't know.
They just were just. I don't know, did they call shotgun?
I want to help them with their decision to, I'm worth keeping, I guess. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
So then they drove me over to the guy that shot me down. Then they took me down into a command bunker.
Can we talk about the guy that shot you down? What?
Yeah, he had one of those stupid leather helmets on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kind of a tall, lanky dude and bad teeth. And
what was? He was
trying. I think he was trying to be nice or something. But I was like, I didn't say anything. I didn't even look at the guy. I was like, whatever. I gotta acknowledge your existence.
He was trying. You thought he was trying to be nice to you, like he.
Yeah, I thought he was, man.
He kind of felt bad.
Yeah, like he's the big hero. He got to shoot down an A-10 or two of them, maybe.
Damn. So you kind of said
it down three stories of stairs, concrete stairs into the ground. So they were really dug in.
Okay. And this is the southwest of Basra, is that?
This is just south of the Kuwait. It's in Kuwait, but very northern North Kuwait, just south of the border.
Just south of the border. So you're in Kuwait then?
Yeah, and it was the Medina Republican Guard.
Okay. So you're going down this stairs. I remember you said on one of your articles here that you felt the officers kind of helped you a little bit, at least prevent you from getting your ass kicked and killed out in the field.
Yeah, because the soldiers would have just, they were getting some pay, but we had just been strafing them.
Yeah, so they're just pissed and they're.
And then after that initial ass whooping, for the most part, they treated me okay there. They interrogated me some, but they didn't push it when I didn't say anything, they did can bring me some food and some. I was complaining, my leg had swollen up real bad by this point, so they offered me some medical care, which I declined. I was complaining, during one of the interrogations, I was complaining about my leg, which was not a make believe. I was really complaining about it, but they brought this medic in, and his helmet was too big, and he had one of these giant Marcus Welby needles, with the steel finger needle that long. No thank you. Give me a shot. I was like, no thanks. Yeah. So they gave me some pills, and I was like, no needles, man, no needles. So he brought me some pills, which I didn't take those either.
Yeah,
And anyway, I didn't trust them. I thought maybe they were slipping me a Mickey or whatever. But
even pills and needles.
They did ask me what my religion was, and I told them I was Catholic, a Christian.
Did you feel that was a good thing? Like when you mentioned that you had a faith, and did they connect with that, or was it purely just to?
Yeah, they're so this is kind of before the whole Islamic craziness got too bad, but he brought a guy in and said that he wanted the commander at the time wanted to prove to me that they weren't Islamists. So they brought a guy in. See, he is a Christian. We are not,
Right.
I was like, well, you're still my enemy, so whatever. I don't care what his faith is.
Yeah. So, okay. So they were not.
But they fed me. They gave me a giant bowl of food, which I couldn't eat at all. It was lima beans and rice. I tried to eat it all, right? I'd just eaten before we stepped. Anyway, I tried to eat it, and water and all that. And
were you alone? Were you alone at this point? Like
no,
no other Americans?
I was with the commander, I guess, and he asked me a couple questions about basically the status of the war, like how many airplanes have been shot down, how good are our Scuds doing.
Okay.
Kind of weird questions. I thought. I was like, why is he asking me that? You don't know how many airplanes you shot down. Doesn't your intel tell you that?
Yeah, they probably didn't have their spreadsheets very updated.
Well, their government had been lying to them.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah,
and I think this guy thought that because I just said, no, you guys haven't been shot down. This is 30 days into the war. I think maybe you shot down 12 airplanes. I deliberately inflated it a little bit low, but nothing gross. And I said, your Scuds are terrible. They're not doing anything. And some other higher ranking guy then barged in the room and yelled at me for lying. You lie. We shot down 200 airplanes, and our Scuds are destroying, lots of cabs. I said, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I stand corrected. You believe whatever you want to believe. Then why are you asking me?
Did you have any tactics? I know you credited your SEER training at the academy. Were you relying on that at that point?
Because this is the tactical interrogation, right?
Yeah.
This is what they talk about. So. Luckily I was half out of it anyway and in shock, partial shock, and I was a lieutenant and didn't know anything. That worked a lot. And then occasionally I would lie.
Yeah.
Whatever. Get away from me. So so I stayed there that night, and then I thought they were going to shoot me, and they took me out to go to the bathroom. I thought they were going to shoot me. They did.
God damn. How did you deal with just the daily...
Well, it took me a day or two to realize, okay, they're not going to just shoot me now. I'm actually worth something to them. But until you get to that point, man, it's an emotional roller. I mean, there's probably a time or two you thought, oh God, I'm going to hit the ground or something. Scared yourself silly, right? Well, it's kind of like that. Only, so it's like huge emotional spike. I'm dead. To oh, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So it's big up and down, and it messes with you for sometimes a little bit.
Did you have any? I know it's a common question you get all the time, but was there any? How did you deal with that? Did you just Did it just take so many times? So after the fifth time, you're like, okay, was it like a sinusoid where you get the big
Yeah,
spike
there's
of
nothing you can
emotion?
do about it. You think you're dead,
Yeah.
you're kind of along for. I say it's like a roller coaster. You're along for the ride. You're stuck in the car. You can't get out.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you get to a point where you saw other coalition members? Like, so you're in a holding area initially?
So the next night I was in, I was in Basra. It drove me to Basra, so in the back seat, blindfolded, tied up, guy with the AK-47 on each side, driver. Some just shack somewhere, holding thing, whatever. Nothing, no food or anything really. I did get to go to the bathroom and look at myself in the mirror. I had 2 black eyes and blood and all this. Looked terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next day, made it to Baghdad. For 2 days to get to Baghdad, and then they would drive me to some place. We would stop. The guard would get out. They'd talk to somebody. The guy would then come in, kind of lean in and smack the crap out of me. The guard would get in. We would drive off, and we would repeat that probably 5 or 6 times.
Okay.
So what I found out they were doing, because I got interrogated to this extensively, and I knew nothing about it, was the day before I'd been shot down, we had hit the Anna Maria shelter in Baghdad.
Mm-hmm.
It had been a communications node, but it also had been a civilian bomb.
Like a shelter?
Yeah, bomb shelter. What's the word? Yeah. So we had hit it and killed a bunch of civilians.
Oh, they weren't happy. Yeah.
And they were very angry about that. And so I think these were people that had lost loved ones in the bombing because they're getting the smacking American. Later on in one of my interrogations, they brought a guy in whose daughter had been killed in the bomb shelter. What are you going to say to him?
Oh man, they're cranking up the.
Yeah. That didn't bother me at all. I could care less about it.
Yeah.
You got to be kind of in that kind of situation. And I just told this to some cadets, and I tell this when I'm in Syria. They're going to try and get in your head, man.
Yeah.
You just got to be stubborn as a bull. Or a donkey or whatever, as a mule, or stubborn as a mule. You just got to have faith in your country, because a lot of it they're going to pull out, especially in today's world. I can't imagine it now with the internet and Facebook. They're going to find stuff about you.
Yeah.
All the bad stuff your country's doing. Look at the protests, all that stuff. And they're going to just beat that into you to try and break your morale, your faith in your country and all that. And you just got to be stubborn about it.
Well, yeah, I think we talk about in mental health counseling, setting boundaries and as a way to kind of protect yourself. And it sounds like
you ain't getting none of those boundaries.
Yeah. Well, you're in the most extreme situation where you really got to just put up these brick walls and not.
I tell you what, that worries me about today's military. We are not as psychiatrically strong as we were, I don't think, as say the greatest generation was.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody uses the funny name snowflake, but there's something to that. I mean, we've gotten very sensitive, very, littlest insult. What are you going to do when a guy's cussing at you in an interrogation and, saying all kinds of politically incorrect stuff? Are you going to get say time out? I need a time out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you got to learn.
Well, a military is supposed to toughen you up, so when the enemy does something to you, you're somewhat prepared for it. I think we've gotten away from that too much. This kinder, gentler stuff.
Yeah, there's something.
When I was a lieutenant, I was scared to death of my squadron commander.
Yeah,
I avoided him, man.
Yeah, yeah. I had a couple, or one that I probably was as well. The ones I always like the ones that you kind of had the respect and not so much intimidation, but I guess if there's somebody's like really good, there's a balance there, like you sort of you respect them, but there is a little bit of fear, I guess, maybe because they were just good at their job. And I don't know. But yeah, I think the mental toughness, I don't know how you train for that. Yeah.
Some of that's spiritual, having good faith is good, but you can't say that anymore. The time to find out you should have gotten some religion is not when you're kissing your butt goodbye.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I think.
Yeah. So So when you got there eventually, and you got to a more permanent location, and
I got handed off to the Ba'athist Party security goons, and at the what place we called the Biltmore.
Oh, the Baghdad Biltmore.
Yeah, the big prison there, 4-story.
Okay.
Rectangle building, and we were pretty much all of us were in there.
How many were in there?
Solitary confinement. I could hear other English speakers talking to the guards, but I couldn't talk to them myself. It was a very well built building. If you screamed at the top of your lungs, the guy next to you probably could hear you, but that would be it. You couldn't whisper through the door or anything.
Okay, so you knew there were other people there, but you didn't know how many, and you were still in solitary confinement at that point.
Correct.
Okay.
And the door was, thick, solid steel door with a little slot in the top. Not an Alcatraz kind of door at all.
Oh, so no kidding, were cut off from
pretty much
anybody.
You hear guys a little bit, but not much.
Okay. And at that point, you didn't know how long the war was going to be. I mean, you had no idea.
Right. I had prepared myself to make it to my birthday, which was July. So I can hack 6 months, I think.
Okay. So you kind of set yourself some goal in your mind, like, okay, I'm going to be here for 6 months, and I can do that. Okay.
I think so, yeah.
It's strange. Like we talk about achievable objectives and definable objectives, and in your mind, you got to kind of flip what those are.
Did you go to the academy?
Yeah.
So, when you're going through your summer training, you just kind of put yourself, okay, I just want to make it through the day, make it through the day, don't do anything stupid, keep pressing along, right? And then your freshman year starts, you want to survive to the weekend. Just make it to Friday, right? I got to make it to Friday. It's kind of like that, except for now I kind of broke it up to I just want to make it to sundown, or I just want to make it to sun up. That's how I kind of measured my life at that point. All right, let's make it. I know they're going to come interrogate me. I got to get through that. Let's just make it to sundown or sun up. At every 12-hour increments. That's how I marched.
What did you do during that time? So you have a lot of time by yourself. Would you play any games in your mind? Would you do anything in your cell? Like what kept you occupied?
You have to keep your mind active. They talk about that in training, but there was a couple times I did not. And if you don't keep your mind active, you'll hallucinate.
Did you ever hallucinate?
Yes. Yeah. My back home, I had a cat, and the cat walked in my cell. I was petting it. When I woke up and go, what in the hell am I doing?
Oh, shit.
I'm losing it. So you got to keep your mind active. I planted a garden. I'm going to put the asparagus here and the tomatoes here. You don't want to focus too much on food, but I did a little bit of that. Like, man, I would love to have a Whopper with cheese and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But so you keep your mind active as best you can.
Holy cow! Now at this point, you're a couple weeks in. Were you losing a lot of weight? Like, what was your physical condition?
So we were in the Biltmore to the 23rd, I think it was.
So that's 8 days. Okay.
So that was the night that the stealths hit our prison.
Oh, your prison was bombed.
Yeah, by 2,000 pounders. First one kind of missed.
Holy cow!
And it was pretty horrifying. So I had been beaten fairly significantly several times. For some reason, they always want to beat me on my left side, I guess. And so I could not lay on my left side. The cell I was in was, they gave you a little foam pad for a mattress and a blanket. That's what you got. And a bowl, kind of like dog bowl for water and food, I guess. And there was a semi-partitioned bathroom on the other side, but the toilet, the commode was code 3. Didn't work at all.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I was laying in the corner, and I just got a big bowl of water from the guards, so I drank about half of it. Tasted funny. Tasted like the water out of a water pistol. Anyway, so the first bomb went off, and some plaster dust had fallen off the roof into the water, and I kind of looked over and went, scooped out some of it. I said, I can still drink that, I'll worry about the cancer later.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then, so just as I lay back over on my right side to continue chilling, the next bomb goes off, and the second one now, this one actually hits the building, and the whole wall blew in, the whole ceiling fell down. So it was like I told this story to the young cadets last week. I was talking to Ohio University cadets. And I said, have you ever seen the Blues Brothers? And of course, there's none of them that have ever seen it. Have you seen the Blues Brothers?
Yeah, I've seen parts of it. Yeah, I know what
Well,
you're talking
there's
about.
a scene in there where Carrie Fisher puts the RPG into their apartment. They're sleeping in there.
Oh man, you're calling out my cultural ignorance. I'll have to see it. You can describe it to me though.
The ceiling falls down, and they're covered in bricks from the wall and the roof. That's exactly what that was like.
Oh man.
Anyway, so all this stuff's on top of me. I'm able to get it off, and then I sit there in the corner. I'm like, oh God, what am I going to do now? So I put the blanket over my head, and then the next 2 bombs come off and go off and knock the wind out of you. And it was just horrible. It was a horrifying experience because you could hear it right before it hit.
Oh. So did it collapse your cell in then, and then
the ceiling, the roof gone, and that wall gone. So when it was all done, it took a long time for the dust to settle. You couldn't even come down out of your blanket and get a breath of air. It was so thick with dust and cordite and everything. You had to wait till the dust settled. So when it finally settled, I could look outside and see. Now I'm 3 stories up, but you could see out.
Oh, okay. So you're up on the 3rd floor then.
Yeah.
Okay. And was there any opportunity to get out there, or would you just stay put because you figured?
No, obviously not out the window, but I tried the door. My door had been warped by the force of the concussion. I couldn't get it open or anything. Now, one guy did get out. Jeff Son got out, and he was trying to let everybody else out. And then the goon squad, then the guards showed back up.
Yeah, you probably don't have much.
Interestingly enough, the guards kind of weren't around when that was going on.
Oh,
I don't know if they had some kind of heads up or something, but usually they were there listening to the radio or whatever, but they were not there when the bombing went off.
Do you know what do you know what we were going after when they were bombing? Was the
it was inside the Baptist Party security compound, so they probably just
could have been okay. Could have been anything. Okay.
Later on, we found out that there was no heat signature from the building, so they didn't think we were in there.
Oh, but
you really think the Iraqis are going to waste heat on us?
Well, yeah.
So Bob Simon was in there with us. The guy from CBS, he died about 5 years ago in a car crash. He was on 60.
Okay. Yeah. So I read that. So he was taken prisoner. He's a newsman, and he was taken prisoner.
Yeah, he was the guy. I mean, he's a nice guy, but God rest his soul. But he had the brainy idea of Thorn Desert Shield. Might have been just as the ground war was started. Might have been right before. Anyway, he was going to walk across the border from Saudi to Kuwait and talk to the Iraqis and get their side of the story. Which they probably arrested him and threw him in jail.
Well, he got their side of the story. I mean,
I'm going to get their side. I was like, well, what were you thinking, man?
Yeah.
He was like, because it was him and his cameraman. He was like, yeah, that wasn't very smart.
Did you ever get a chance to have a good conversation with him about his experience?
No, not really. Colonel Everly did, because he actually got released a little bit before us.
Okay.
Maybe 5 days before or something like that.
Who was the senior ranking officer when you were there? Do you remember?
Yeah, Colonel Dave Everly. He was the vice. He was the F-15E guy. He was the vice at Seymour.
Okay.
So the guy, when we got bombed, there was a long pause, and then people started talking through their doors. And somebody said CBS. We all just heard CBS.
Okay, that was
bombed. But somebody thought that the Iraqis had brought CBS News to show how the Americans are bombing their own guys.
Oh.
So we were like everybody started yelling their name out to try and get it on camera so loved ones would know that we're alive,
Okay, so the initial concern was trying to get your name out to show that you were alive.
Some guys started yelling their names. Hey, get my name on the camera so my wife knows I'm alive, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's about 3 or 4 guys yelled their names, and then there's a pause, and then Bob Simon goes, no, I'm in here with you.
Sorry, it's going to be a while before I can get the word out. Were there any other foreign folks there, or was it all Americans? So
I was surrounded by Brits.
Okay.
Yeah, they were funny dudes, man. They were the morale of the camp.
Yeah, what was their that's kind of funny to me. Like, why do you think that they were the morale?
Oh, because they were cracking jokes right after the bombing. One guy yelled at the other guy, "Hey, you okay?" And he goes, I'm in the corner with me bowl on my head, and I think I shat myself. Then somebody yelled, "Who's bombing us?" And one of the guys yells, "The bloody effing Americans."
Oh, Jesus.
Anyway, I thought that was fun.
That's cool. You talk to those guys now, or
oh yeah, so they took us out that night.
Yeah,
took us to another prison, which turned out to be Abu Ghraib. Later life, later infamy.
Yeah,
and we were the first night. We were all put together in one cell. The Americans in one cell, all the coalition guys in the other cell, because there was also Italians and a Kuwaiti fighter pilot with us. It was a civilian warden. He didn't know what to do with us, so he gave us all kinds of food and tea and all that. So we got everybody's name. That's when I found out Sif had been shot down, and that's why I told Dale's story. Everybody thought he was dead. And then the F-14, my squadron, a couple guys in my squadron had done the CSAR that had rescued the F-14 pilot, but they couldn't find the backseater when he was in the jailhouse. And I told him his pilot had been rescued. He wasn't too happy about that. Anyway, so then the next day, he was, because he'd been looking for him the whole time. Anybody seen my pilot? He was even in there before I told him the story. Has anybody seen my pilot? Devin, I can't find him anywhere. I haven't heard his voice or anything. I'm like, what was your call sign? I said, dude, he got rescued, man.
Okay.
He's like, that's son of a... Anyway, so
yeah,
because they had punched out so high, I guess they were really far apart on the ground. But
yeah.
Anyway, so the next day the goon squad showed up and took us back into solitary in another wing, a condemned wing of the prison. But the temperature dropped. We all got real hypothermic. So the next night they gave us cellmates. And one of my cellmates was a Brit, one of the British guys, a Robbie Stewart, who was a tornado backseater, great guy. Yeah, and yes, I keep in touch with him, and all of them actually. We were supposed to have a reunion this year, but COVID kind of killed that. So
yeah. So you were in there for then. So I think 19 days is what that was the number.
Yeah. So some guys were let go on the 5th, I think, or the 4th. They bust them out. And then the rest of us were supposed to fly out on the 6th. This is all part of a prisoner exchange. The International Red Cross had wickered it.
Okay, so...
But the weather crumped, so we couldn't fly out of Baghdad that day. We had to stay in a hotel downtown under the care of the International Red Cross, the Swiss people.
Okay, so you've been there for a couple of weeks now, and you're getting interrogated, beat up, things are bad.
So then the war ends, like on the 20th... What day was that? 28th, 27th, something like that.
Yeah.
And they take us to another prison, an Air Force base, still solitary confinement, but they start being real nice to us. Guy comes in and shaves you. A doctor comes in, they give you a new uniform. So anyway, but that last day we got stuck there. They stuck us in the Novotel Hotel in Baghdad. Novotel Hotel in Baghdad. And they all gave us rooms. So everybody got their own room, in a 4-star hotel.
Hey, things are looking up.
But we all stayed in one room. We was like, we ain't doing solitary again, man.
Oh, okay. It's not, the complete opposite of now. I'm like, I don't want to be anywhere near anybody. But back then,
it was like, no, I've been in solitary long enough, man.
Oh, so y'all stayed together. That's cool.
That's right. And then the next day they flew us out to Riyadh.
When that starts happening, like how did you know that you were getting released? And did you think that it was a lie? Did you think that?
Well, so we got bused to this hotel on the 6th. And this lady comes on the bus. And she goes, I am from the International Red Cross. I forget her name. But we're here to take you home. And there was a long pause in the bus. Because we're like, this is a joke.
Yeah.
Because as we're driving through Baghdad, there's people on the side of the road staring at us,
Mm-hmm.
You can see wreckage of coalition aircraft piled up on monuments downtown Baghdad. So, but then we kind of all let out a little
like a sigh
of relief kind of thing. And then she took us in, got us rooms, gave us our POW cards. Didn't really have any food for us. She gave us chocolate, which we all ate and got sick from.
Yeah, the sugar, I'm sure, is... after so many weeks of eating.
But we all had various, it was bad water. So the treatment was, we got bad water, not enough food. So we all got salmonella, giardia, dysentery, I think. Nasty gastro diseases.
Was Was anybody severely injured in your group?
So
or
my cellmate, Robbie Stewart, had, because Martin Baker in the tornado seat is, you get injured when you punch out with that seat. Let's just put it that way. So he had a broken leg, compound fracture in his leg.
Okay.
Now, the Iraqi doctors at the time had all been trained in the West, so they were fairly competent, actually. So they had done a fairly good job of setting this thing. But, he'd be getting interrogated, and they'd hit his leg with a hammer if he didn't answer right.
Oh. How did you?
Yes, we had Rhonda Cornum, the flight surgeon.
Yeah.
She had 2 broken arms. She never did get out. She was in the hospital the whole time. So we had Dan Stamaris, who had a broken pelvis, I think. He was pretty messed up.
So you're in Baghdad at this point. You said they flew you out of there back into Saudi? What was your first repatriation?
So they flew us out on Bal Air, little Swiss Air airline.
Okay.
BAL. They're since gone out of business, but.
And where did they take you?
They flew us to Riyadh.
Oh, to Riyadh. Okay.
Yep, we landed there. The F-15s joined up on our wing when we crossed into Good Guy Land. The Tornadoes did, the F-16s. But sadly, the A-10s didn't join up with us. I needed to complain about that. Yeah. They could have joined up on us on final or something.
Yeah, they probably couldn't catch up to the airliner there, but they were.
Or go to 30,000 feet.
Yeah, well, that too.
So we landed in Riyadh, and I gave Schwarzkopf a hug when I saw him.
Oh, did he meet you personally then?
Yeah, he was there to greet us back. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice, man.
And then that was back when man hugging was not a cool.
So it was a special, even more of a
that's right. That's right.
I know, man.
Now it's all about man hugging.
How did you? So, kind of just how'd you feel about that? I mean, did you feel like?
I was very happy to be out of that place.
Was it a big group that greeted you?
Yeah, every bunch of generals and stuff, and bros from my squadron were there. So the Vietnam guys, a guy named Tom McNish, he had been a Vietnam POW. He was a Surgeon General of the Air Force, I think, something like that. One of the head flight. He went to medical school after Vietnam and became a flight surgeon. So he was like our godfather, kind of telling us what's up, what to expect, and all that. But they felt from Vietnam lessons that if you had a bro from your squadron meet you at the plane, that was a good thing. A shadow, they called him. Mm-hmm. And I actually had 2 bros because they weren't sure. So I was MIA the whole time. Because I punched out and SIF didn't. There was only one beacon. They didn't know whose beacon it was. So they didn't know who was going to walk off the plane, maybe both of us or whatever. So.
Oh, that's right. They didn't know.
Yeah. So because SIF never got out. So I had 2 shadows for a while, 2 guys, but everybody had one. They took all us Americans to Bahrain and put us on the Mercy, the hospital ship. The Brits went home and the Italians went home.
Mm-hmm. What was the initial debrief like? So they greet you, then they send you to Bahrain. At what point were you?
Well, we didn't get debriefed until we got back to the States.
Okay.
So the hospital ship was all about trying to get us healthy,
Yeah. And how long was that process?
I think we were there about 3 days. And then, they expected 200,000 casualties or something, and they got basically none. So the hospital ship, all the doctors on there were bored. So they finally got some patients to treat. So I think we all had like 2 or 3 doctors each.
Oh, okay. So you treat pretty well there. Yeah.
So yeah, they gave us a bunch of stuff for our various ailments and diseases and injuries, and took good care of us. And then they flew us home to Andrews on the old Air Force One that they did before they got the 747.
Mm-hmm. Like the old 707 or whatever.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
And then so we flew home on that and landed at DC. Big party and all that. And then they split us up. So the Air Force guys went to Malcolm Grove and Andrews. The Army guys went to Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and the Navy guys went to Bethesda. And then when we were in the hospital, they were getting further treated and stuff. That's when we got our debriefs. Okay.
What did they ask you, or how long was that? What did they ask you?
Everything.
Everything.
I had a second lieutenant. I'm a first lieutenant, second lieutenant. Amanda Nagel was her name. and she was a nice looking gal. She was engaged, and turned out we had a mutual friend. But so she's in there. Yeah, she had been interrogating Iraqi prisoners.
Oh, okay.
So she was human intel sort of.
Yeah.
Then she came to debrief me / interrogate me, and she was, she kept calling me sir. I'm like, hey, there's no virtue among lieutenants.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all good. And so it was like 3 days of me telling everything I could think of.
Yeah, probably kind of like this. You're just trying to go.
It's not going to be 2 days.
Yeah, sorry. No, we're good. Anytime I can get is great. So you're back in DC now. You're debriefing. A couple days there, and then eventually they release you home at that point.
Yeah. So I had a home. All my family and friends were there as well, and then they flew me on a C-21. DV4 status or whatever. You got your own C-21.
Nice.
Wanted to go.
Nice.
I just wanted to go back to Myrtle Beach, and because the squadron was working its way home, I wanted to be there when the planes landed.
Yeah.
And the guy who was flying the C-21 was a guy I'd been in pilot training with. That was pretty cool.
Now you didn't have you weren't married at the time or had?
No, I had a girlfriend at the time.
Okay. Okay. Do you think that made it a little easier or harder, or what do you think? How did you feel coming home, and did you feel a little bit like, hey, there's not a whole lot back here. My buddies are back in Saudi
no, it was okay. Our relationship was a little unsure anyway. We hadn't dated all that much before I left.
Yeah.
So, it ended up not working out anyway, but, so that was that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get, so how long until the guys came back then? So were you able to meet him when they came back?
Yes. It was only like a day or two, and they landed it. So I was able to greet them when they got off the plane and all that. That was pretty cool. Oh,
so it was actually pretty coincident then. So the war ended,
yeah.
They come home, and then probably the newer squadrons had to stay there and go into Southern Watch.
Yeah. It actually was, I forget what they called it, something else for a long time.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah. It eventually became Southern Watch, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Vigilant Warrior for a while. We actually went back in '94. It was Vigilant Warrior back then.
Yeah, we did a couple times, 94, 98. That was another.
Well, we went back to Saddam brought a division down. We thought he was going to try to invade Kuwait again.
Yeah.
So I was in the 75th then, and we flew over to Dahran again, but this time we paid.
So how long was it before you got back in the A-10, and how did you feel when you on that first ride when you got back in?
Well, I had a lot. I got back in. I was in there for a while. I ended up flying in June, so I started getting my requal.
So it wasn't that. It was maybe a month or two. So you got back in what? March or April?
March, and then April, May, for 90 days.
Okay. What kind of other assistance did they give you in terms of either mental health or physical health? Was it pretty robust?
So there's this institution called the Robert Mitchell Center in Pensacola at NAMI, Naval Aviation Medical Institution.
Yeah.
And they do all the POWs for all the branches. You go down there and you get a full physical, all that stuff. And you can go down every year, except for this year because of COVID. And they track your deterioration or whatever.
Yeah.
You basically get a full. You go down there TY, or if you're retired, they'll pay for you to come down. You just get a 9G physical. They check everything to include see a psychological counselor.
Yeah. How did all that go? So Sif was killed. What kind of stuff did you deal with that? I mean, they talk about survivor's guilt and all that. How did you?
Yeah, survivor's guilt real bad. I didn't even know it at the time, but I ended up going. I was okay for a while. And just happy to be alive and all that. And then I went to Korea for a year doing my remote in '92. So I was back for a year, and a year later I went to Korea.
Yeah.
I had gotten engaged. That didn't work out. So I went to Korea. I was fairly not in a good place, and I was a bad officer, quite frankly. And survivor's guilt was kind of hitting me hard.
So it sounds like a lot of things.
I was a bad boy in Korea, man. Luckily, I had some commanders that took pity on me and didn't court-martial me to death.
So it sounds like a lot of things were not going very well at that point, and then the survivors.
No, so I got over it basically after that. Met a good woman after that, and got my life on track.
Like more of a support system kind of helped out a little bit. Yeah. So I read something interesting also in one of your articles was that you said SIF wanted to do a full 20 years, and that was a big reason why you've kept going as long as you have.
Yeah, I don't know that for sure. I assume he would have. I mean, he was a weapons school grad, flight commander, loved the Air Force, loved the mission.
Yeah.
And, I thought about getting out for a while, but I just couldn't do it. I was like, I got to do it. I felt like I kind of owed it to him,
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
Or it's the least I could do.
Yeah.
I got to come home and he didn't. So I ended up staying a lot longer than that.
Yeah, we went over that. You've had a hell of a career. So how about life since then? So you kept going. Did you retire and then you're doing retired reserve now and just
yeah? So I
never going to boot you out at some point.
So I ended up doing 20. Had commanded an IFF squadron. I probably would have made command in the A-10, I think, but there was just the timing was such that. Let me just say this: I was a little afraid of coming to be a DO at DM at the time you were a lieutenant. I'm going to say it that way.
Oh, okay, yeah, got it. That's fine. That's fine.
Because they were shopping for a DO at the time.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't like terror. By the way, I don't like. Tucson's not for me anyway. I'm an East Coast. I got to have green grass and green trees. It's just all the brown brings me down after a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had done IFF as my alpha tour in the late 90s. I really enjoyed the mission, and I thought, you know what, I'll just go down there and see if I can get a job down there. So luckily, the leadership at Pope at the time, Coach Allison, and them supported me. They made some calls for me, and I was able to get a command tour down there, or get hired as a potential commander anyway, at IFF, and was lucky enough to command the 435th, which was the squadron I'd been in as a young guy. And I really enjoyed that mission. I thought it was good work, teaching people how to be a fighter pilot.
What about so just in general? What are some big lessons that you could give to not just young pilots, but just to anybody, young people going through tough times? Like what kind of, because you were in probably the most dire situation of anybody that I can think of, anybody I've talked to.
Well, it's just, so after command, I was going to go to, because my squadron got bracked, right? They moved IFF out of Moody. I was going to go to Columbus and be the deputy group commander there to help IFF stand out, which is not really what I want to do, but I had concern. But anyway, a lot of kind of crazy confluence of events happened. So they made the deputy group commander job an 05 job. It used to be an 06 job. They ran out of money, PCS money, in the summer of 07 for some months. They did not run out of TDY money to go to TX. The incoming deputy group commander fleeted up to be the group commander, and he was a good personal friend of mine. I had been his DO at Pope in the OSS, so he wanted me to stay there and be his deputy, which I wanted to do. And even though I wasn't on the list, they talked to some generals, and I ended up getting to stay here and get back in the A-10. So I was able to go to TX in August of 07 and be the deputy here in the A-10. Well, then, I was on the schools list and all that back then. They don't do it that way anymore. But I was going to go to school, and then I started thinking about it, and then I didn't make the list the first year. I would have went if they would have sent me that first year, but they didn't. And then my boss deployed for 7 months, so I did his job for 7 months. He was acting group commander. And I just did not. It was a miserable job. I didn't enjoy it at all. You don't fly very much. You go to a lot of meetings. There's a lot of politics at that level that I don't like. People are soft-skinned and get worried about their careers too much. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm getting out. So they were going to send me to school. They came down and said, "Hey, we got you a school slot." I turned it down. So I was going to get out, retire, call it good. And then, of course, this is right around 2008. The economy tanks.
Mm-hmm.
I had done my interview with Southwest. It went well. But they put me in the pool. I didn't have a job. I was a poolie. So I kind of needed a job, and they were standing up the reserve group here, and they had already asked me once about coming over to the reserves, and I said no at the time. Like no kidding. 3 months later, I said, "Hey, remember you guys offered me that job? I'm thinking about, can I come over?" So because they were standing out and they needed instructors, I was able to do the retire from the active duty and go into the reserve thing. And I was only going to do that for a couple of years till Southwest brought me on board, but then I kind of enjoyed it so much, I stayed with it. Plus, it gave me some flexibility with my schedule.
Nice.
And that's what I've been doing since I did that. I signed into, so I retired on 1 January of 2010 from the active duty, and then I swore into the reserves on 15 Feb of 2010. You have to take a 45-day break in service to do that. DFAS can't handle the.
Yeah, it's
no kidding what they tell you. DFAS can't handle the.
They're only open from 9 to 2.
That's right.
Tuesday and Thursday.
They need those 45 days to get the pay right. Or whatever. And then, of course, they still screw it up because they're supposed to defer your pay when you're on orders.
Yeah, with an hour for lunch, from 11 to 1. So what about some like life lessons for some like young pilots? What did you kind of gather from that whole experience? It sounds like obviously the faith is a big thing for you, but any other like kind of big things that people who are going through some really tough times, what would you recommend? I mean, I know it's a broad.
Well, you got to look at the pluses, and you can't be, if you're looking at all the negatives all the time, it's going to bring you down. So you got to look at the positives, even if there is a lot of negatives. Always have an upbeat attitude, a positive thinker, glass half full kind of person, I think. As far as career satisfaction, I was never one to plan my whole career out. I think that's just awful. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to be a general. I remember I had a lieutenant in my flight who will remain nameless one time, and he came in there and barely through MQT. He told me he wanted to be a general someday, and I get the heck out of my office. Now he's a general, which is funny.
Oh, okay, well, I guess you have to have some long range plans, but you have to have the sense of perspective as well and pay attention to what's right in front of you.
I just think that kind of thinking is, enjoy the now because tomorrow may never come. There is some wisdom to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get guys now in today's Air Force, they make command. Somebody told me, because my command got cut short. I was only a commander for about 14 months or 15 months, maybe. And somebody said, "Man, that's awesome. You got to skate through command, check that thing, and move on." I was appalled at that comment. Yeah. It's like, man, I did not want to be a touch-and-go commander.
Yeah.
It's a great job. I wanted to do my 2 years, So, anyway, don't live for tomorrow. I think live for today somewhat. Now, obviously, you got to plan a little bit, but take it an assignment at a time. Leave the Air Force when you're done with it, not when it's done with you.
Yeah. Okay.
There's people that hang on way too long. Probably me.
Yeah, but it sounds like. And what's funny is like I always thought I would like get out, do something else, and then I did, and then I'm like, man, I miss a lot about the Air Force. I never thought I would say that, but yeah, you miss your buddies, you miss the job, you miss the camaraderie, like you have a higher sense of purpose, and we tend to take that for granted when we're in there. And
sure.
Sometimes it takes leaving and then like going, oh crap, like I actually did have it pretty good. Like just because you think, you're planning for the future, but the future may not be what you think it is. So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things I'll miss, the bros, the camaraderie, the mission, the flying, of course.
Yeah. Well, you're still flying at Moody, right? Or
yeah,
okay.
I'll fly tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. You're.
I wouldn't want to be in the Air Force if I was not flying, though. I do know that now. I was worried at the time because I did my Alpha Tour, made major, and went to school, and I wanted to go. I was staring at a staff tour. I didn't want to go to the staff, but I thought I better go to the staff now because what you don't want to do is go to get shacked with a staff tour late in your career. Now you're not flying, you retire, you're not current, and all that badness, or you miss out on command or whatever.
Yeah.
But They told me too bad. We're short of pots in the A-10. You got to go back to the A-10. And so I did, and luckily I didn't. So I never did a staff tour.
Yeah.
Which I'm not on. Of course, you got to do a staff tour and then a joint tour if you want to be a general and all that. But
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm glad people want to do that. And I have good friends of mine that are generals. God bless them. I have no desire to do that whatsoever.
And you're an 06 now, is that right?
No. I turned down school a couple times.
Oh man, I got a lot more respect for you now. We're going down the same path. Yeah, I think I'm 05.
I turned down school when I was active duty.
Okay.
And then I started to do it in correspondence when I was in the reserves. They kind of wanted me to do it. I didn't finish it. I just, because if you make 06 in the reserves, now you got to find a job. You probably got to go to Africa or wherever, maybe get command somewhere. But it's not for me.
Yeah, you wanted to be flying.
I'm in a position where I could kind of do what I wanted to do, and I wanted to fly the A-10.
Yeah.
2 weeks out of the month.
Yeah, that's great. So what about any future plans from here on out? I mean, are they going to boot you out at some point, or are you going to hang it up?
Well, I'm retiring. I got to retire this year. I'm on my third MSD extension, which I guess to go beyond this is pretty hard to do, and I'm done anyway. I'm too old now. I'm 54, man. I'll be 55 in July. And there's a lot of mileage on this body. So,
yeah. Your birthday's in July. Mine's July 6th. When's yours?
15th.
Okay. All right.
So I'm retiring June 5th and 6th. Actually, I'm officially retiring 1 July. But
holy
June
cow,
5th,
it's coming. It's going to come.
But yeah, and my retirement has gotten. I've lost control of it. Who's the invite list? I can't even get that done. There's just so many people I want to invite or want to come. You got COVID restrictions, and
yeah,
I can only have 105 people at the thing, and there's like 300 or 400 people I want to invite or want to come. So I've lost control.
Well, you could always do another one. I think you can.
Mayor has lost control.
You could. Yeah, the mayor's lost control. You can always do another one. Just do another one on your own, and I'm sure you'll get.
I don't want to do that. I want to get done. I got a Finney flight on Saturday, drill Saturday, the 5th. Party that night. I can probably cheat on the party and let a few more in 105 since it's downtown. Then the ceremony is the next day in the afternoon. That'll be strictly at 105. But
yeah.
Anyway.
Wow, that's awesome. Then what about in retirement? You got anything that you want to do after? Have you thought about that, or is it more just get?
Well, I'll go back to Southwest, which is a great company, and do some time there. Do my time there. I don't know. We're kind of up in the air right now. We'll probably move back up home, closer to home. Yeah, I've been dwelling on my next job, what I want to do with myself. I feel that there's more I want to do, but I haven't quite figured out what that is yet.
Yeah, you got time. I mean, I
got to write a book.
Yeah, you should.
My dad was on me for years. He passed away in December, but he's been on me for years with a book, so I got to dedicate it to him. But
for who's that?
Oh, my dad. He was on me for years to write a book. I never got around to doing it.
Can we just real quick?
He passed away in December, so.
Oh man, yeah. I'm sorry. How were they during this whole? So I know you didn't have a wife or kids at the time. You were going through your prisoner of war situation, but how was your family, your parents, and did you have any siblings?
So I just talked. So I talked last week. I was up home helping my mom out, and I went and talked to the cadets at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, which is about 40 minutes from my mom's house. My mom lives in West Virginia, but basically right on the river. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy from that unit back in 91, a guy named Paul Burchak. Lieutenant Colonel Burchak at the time. I just tracked him down and talked to him not too long ago, as a matter of fact. He was the ROTC commander there, but he got the call from the Pentagon, hey, you need to go to this address and tell the family there that their son's missing in action. So, like right out of the war movies, Mm-hmm. So he drove up there and knocked on the door and had to tell my parents I was missing in action. That's a tough duty for an officer to do.
Yeah.
Because you got to be compassionate and caring, but you can't be a blubbering idiot either. You got to maintain some professionalism, but you can't be cold either. So it's really hard to do. It's terrible on you. I tell people that's probably the hardest job an officer could ever be called to do, actually.
Yeah.
Go to somebody's house and tell them their son either dead or missing. So as a favor, because the commander there now, I helped me track down General Burchak, and I said I'd talk to his cadets for him, so I did.
So how did your parents respond to that? Were they?
So they're not military. That was all very new to them. They didn't know what to do, how to act, anything. Luckily, I had an awesome vice wing commander at Myrtle Beach, J.D. Gallagher, who ended up being the superintendent at the Air Force Academy before he retired. He called him every day. John, hey John, hey Art and Marianne. My dad's name's Art. My mom's name's Marianne. He would call him every day. How are you guys making out? You got any questions? Because they had a ton of questions. And he's very patient with him. He's a great guy. I just told him not too long ago too. Tell him I was retired.
Yeah.
And thanked him for taking care of my folks.
Yeah. Did you have any siblings as well, or?
I had a younger brother, yes, and he was there. And it was a snow day, I think. They weren't going to school because of the snow, and his best friend was there as well. Who I didn't know that. I didn't know this till like 3 months ago. His best friend is a money guy. He works for Northwestern Mutual, and so I have some money invested with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know he was at the house when they came with my brother, playing video games or something, enjoying their snow day.
Yeah. Okay. So when you were missing, because they didn't know that you were a POW. Well, I guess did they know that you were a POW? Or
No, I was MIA the whole time.
You were MIA.
Remember I said because only one beacon, so they didn't know who was.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So did your?
Yeah, MIA is worse than POW. Like the guys that were on TV, the American military can go to the Iraqis and say, "Hey, we know you had this guy. He was on TV. Give him to us." As opposed to a Scott Spiker kind of guy. Well, whatever happened to that, we think maybe you punched out, you don't know. So you don't have as much leverage when you go into the.
Oh, I see. I see. What did your parents say? Like when you came back and met them and.
They were great. They were happy I was back. All that. We had a big party. All that stuff. I went home for some months and happy, good times.
Yeah, they're just kind of day by day then, waiting for you to come back, waiting for the war to be over, and
turned my dad's hair gray. I think.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow. Yeah, I think my parents would be a wreck. they really would be. Wow. Sweetness. This is awesome. So any other future plans, any other like last messages before we kind of sign off here?
No, man. Like I said, Gump says hi. I told him that you were doing these things now. That didn't come as a surprise to him for some reason.
Yeah. He's
all bumming because he got called back to Delta, so he had to go back to training, and now he's doing his OE tomorrow. I guess is requal ride. He's been out for.
He's a fun guy. I find him so interesting because he's a fighter pilot, but yet he's an artist. I'm like, what in the world? Like he paints and.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he has a very soft side. You should ask him about it. He keeps it.
Oh, he was the 74th commander, and they deployed 6 months to Europe, and I did the last half in Bulgaria as a reservist.
Okay,
so that's how I got to know. We spent 90 days in Bulgaria together. So he and I stop up and see him up in North Carolina. A couple times a year. I see him probably 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah, he's in North Carolina. Nome is?
No, not Nome.
Oh,
you mean no? I'm talking about Gump.
Oh, Gump. I'm sorry. I thought you said Nome. Okay, no, Gump is not the artist. Nome is the artist.
Nome is the artist?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't know Nome was an artist.
Yeah, Gump. I don't know.
He's in my reserve unit.
Okay.
Nome is in the 76 now.
Yeah. Both those guys are great guys.
That's
awesome.
Yeah, Gump then moved up in the mountains of North Carolina for some reason.
Okay.
Didn't want to go back to Alabama.
I got to see my East Coast buddies. Well, shoot, if you, I know you got limited numbers there on your retirement, but if you ever have like some big event, I'm sure we'll meet face to face, or I'll even try to get out there for hog smoke if I can. But
yeah, that'd be great, man.
Yeah.
I know hog smoke. That's right around the corner. So
yeah, awesome.
I'm not flying it.
Oh, you're not? Okay. Well,
I flew in the 2012 one, I think. 2012, I think I flew in that one. After that, I was like, I ain't flying this no more. It was a young man's game.
Yeah, a lot of pressure. I flew in one many years ago. God. Anyway, that's cool. Well, Sweetness, thanks so much for coming on the show, man, and sharing your wisdom, your true inspiration, and thanks for your service. And I hope you write that book. I got to write it, man. I'll be the first one. I want to get a signed copy.
Absolutely.
I can. So
stay in touch, man.
Awesome. You too. Well, thanks so much. That is it, my friends. Thanks for listening. Please follow the show on all the social media sites and remember to like and share the post with your friends. Also, leave a 5-star rating and a friendly comment on your podcast app because it really helps us book the big guests. Finally, if you have an idea for the show or if you'd like to be on the show, email us at gregkrinoshow@gmail.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.